I'm in a bad dream. The plot next to me was bought, and now they're making a house, and that means I'm gonna have a neighbor soon, and neighbors are nightmares. I'm in Salad and I saw Inception. It is written and directed by Christopher Nolan. If you haven't seen this movie, I will spoil it for you. This was requested by a Patreon. If you like the fast track of movie review, patreon.com/ASEPresents. On with the review. This movie, we're following these dream hackers. We got Cobb, who is being played by Leonardo DiCaprio. And by the way, I've got to mention he does a great job here, and oh my goodness, the sun's here. This is Inception. I'm in a nightmare. Sun in my eye, I have light sensitivity issues, so if you see me squint, that's why. He's being approached by Sato. Sato owns an energy company, and he wants a monopoly. The rival company owner man, he died, so now he has the son is running the company. So here's the plan. Gotta incept his mind to dissolve the family company. That's gonna be hard. How do you convince somebody to just dissolve every future that you have? Everything that your father built, how you just convince you to just... He would just want me to get rid of it. Totally insane. But this requires a team and requires Cobb to go in many layers deep into the dream. Big deep. When I first started watching this film, I was like, man, this is going to be very complicated. How am I going to keep track of this with my small, feeble brain? As the movie went on, it actually kind of got more easy to follow. If you've never seen Inception, or if you haven't seen it in a while and need a refresher, here's what's happening. The guy wanting to infiltrate the idea, he bought the airline. So now he has the airplane, the private jet, in which his son, the father's son who just... the father died. His son is flying private. And so they go on this private. They give him a drink. Really sedate him. Very heavy sedative. This is reality. They go into layer 1. This is very action-packed, and oh boy, there's a lot that happens. Basically, you got a guy who's driving a van, being shot at. You know, you get subconscious protection. One layer, someone tries to infiltrate your subconscious, you can have them trained to fight that person. So that's basically what's happening. And so they go to another layer. So now this is the second layer of dream. And by the way, the layers are very visually distinct, so you know which layer they're on. First layer, I got the van, very bluish in color. Second layer, very orangish in color. Third layer, it's just an ice planet. They're in the big ice. There's snow everywhere. They go into the guy's consciousness, the father's son's consciousness. And then the fourth layer is limbo. And by the way, the time scaling is different. I forget the exact time scaling, but 5 minutes is like an hour. Then the second layer is like 2 weeks. Third layer is like 6 months. Fourth layer is like 10 years. It's not that. I remember the third layer being 10 years, but I don't remember what the other ones were. But I do remember the fourth layer is in limbo. You could just be in there for infinity. It just feels like you're in there for infinity, and people get lost there. What makes this story so good, not only is this very complex idea executed very well in a sense in which I can follow along easily, there's also the emotional part, that Cobb is not over his dead wife. And we get to understand why he feels so guilty. There are a bunch of dream jumpers jumping in the deep layers of dreams, just being a dream and sleeping all the time. And they got down to limbo, and they spent what seemed to be their entire lives growing old together in limbo, but it's essentially just 5 minutes in the real world. And so they wake up. The only way that he can get her to wake up is being like, hey, this world isn't real. Please come back. And so they go to the real world, and she is convinced that the world is not real, to the point where she's like, I have to go back to the real world. I have to jump off of this window. And it's very sad, and made me cry, and made me sad, very emotional. It's like, man, this hits really hard. Wow, I was not expecting this movie to be this good. I know this is a Christopher Nolan movie. It was like really good. I knew the reputation was like, it's complex, but it's alright. It's pretty good. You'll understand it. But watching this, I'm like, this is awesome. Oh my goodness. So she jumps off and she falls to her death, and she didn't awake, because you don't awake yourself from dying. They cry. So now he's like, I want to be in the dreams all the time so I could go spend infinity time with her. But he has to confront the fact that he can't spend all of his dream time just having that be his reality, because it's not his wife. It's not all of his wife. It's just what he thinks the wife would say. And we got the chick who was here to make mazes. She got the first look at it, and so she's got the most intimate look at it, and she's like, you have to confront this. And I'm like, yeah, you do have to confront this. And I like how he does confront it. There's a lot of stakes involved. Sato gets shot in the first layer, so he has to keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And I like seeing how the different layers of Dream affects the other layers of Dream. I like how in the first layer of Dream, you got a guy who's playing music, puts music on this guy's headphones, and so he has to deal with, oh yeah, it's 3 minutes, but in like the other dreams they have like oh, I have 3 minutes, so I have an hour, okay, cool. All that fun jazz. It stacks depending on which depth layer they are on at. The first one, they can clearly hear the music. The second layer, underneath that, it's kind of like, it sounds like it's part of the wind. It's like, uh-oh, we only got so much time. And they're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be fun, easy, execute. It's gonna be difficult, but it's gonna be whatever. All right, we could do this. We got confidence. Right at the beginning of the movie, and then towards like the middle part of the movie, they're like, oh my goodness, this is going quicker than we thought. I don't know if we have enough time. And we have the guy in the first layer Dream. He's getting himself dropped in the van into a bunch of water. And he has to like signal the sound the song when he does that. And what's fun is that they're like, oh my goodness, this is too much. This is not enough time. We need more time. We have to go fast. It's like then they have to go fast and risk getting caught. It's pretty great. I enjoyed it. This movie, I feel like the best way I can explain it to you is if you were to watch it yourself, because I have definitely not gone into the depths in which the movie explores, it provides. There's a lot of depth, a lot of human connection depth. There's a lot of just weird things, cool visuals that happen. Like my favorite visuals, there's two that was iconic that I remember seeing before having seen this movie. We got the road that goes and then you got like two roads stacked on top of each other. That scene was really cool. And that was like when they were in limbo, I think. Was it when they were in limbo? Anyway, so they're just walking down. Here you go, I can manipulate reality. And then we got the spinny, very, very spinny hallway of the hotel in the second layer. That was really fun. I also liked how the physics of the first dream impacts the second and third dream. Well, it doesn't impact the third layer. It just impacts the second layer, I noticed. Also, a guy's physical state can affect the weather in a dream. Like that guy had to pee, so it was raining. So that was pretty cool. I enjoyed it. This is a fun time. This is a really fun experience. I'm glad I watched this movie. I'll definitely watch it again. I think it would be good on rewatch. I also noticed that a lot of the reality shots, the whites were kind of leaning on neutral more so than leaning on blue. And then as you go deeper and deeper in layers, they get more and more warm until you hit the limbo, and it's like the place that they made together. But towards the end, when it's time for them to just get kicked, which is just them getting jolted awake, you definitely will wake up when you feel a fallen sensation, and you have to synchronize that on all of the dream layers. He's in the limbo layer, and he's like, yeah, I've got to get out of here. And I could see how much is going on outside by all the wind and all the lightning. That was a very darker scene. All the scenes with his wife, very, very dark. Except for whenever he sees his children, they're like bright. And it's like, okay, they're very brightly lit in his dreams, and the memory of her is like brightly lit. But then whenever he's interacting with her, it's like kind of darkly lit because he feels the guilt. So every instance of talking to her, there's a negative emotion associated with it, and you can see it within the colors. And then we got the end, right? He could finally go home to America. They think that he killed her, so he's on the run, but now he's got all his charges cleared thanks to Sato. And then he goes home to America, and he goes home to his house, and he sees his children, and it's in the same glow as in his dreams. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. He sees his children's face, which is something distinct because he never got to see his children's face. He was very like, I don't want to look at their faces whenever they would turn in the limbo version, but now we're in the reality, depending on what you think. right? He spins the topper and it kind of wobbles, but then it cuts to, it doesn't show it falls. So you have an interpretation there, whether you can interpret that he's in his dream state and he's just stuck in dreaming, or maybe he's in reality. And I think he's in reality mainly because the top is wobbling. And that's like a token to show if you're in the dream or not. And that was his wife's token, was to twist it. And if it fell, it meant he's in reality. And if it kept spinning, it meant that he was in dream state. But it was wobbling. It never wobbled whenever he was in a dream state. So I'm thinking it was in reality. But then how do you account for the kids not being much older? If it was like a year, they would have grown a lot. I mean, this is the hyper accelerated time of a human time. In order to grow big, they grow big during that time. So I feel like they would be taller. So I guess it's open up to interpretation. Let me know what you think of this movie. I enjoyed it a lot. Oh my goodness, I would totally watch this again. Thank you for suggesting this on Patreon. Also, better hit that like and subscribe button if you've gotten this far in the video. Do that. You should. It really helps out the channel. And more people will be able to see these videos so I can do more of them. So I'll have to give this a solid 9.5. If you like this review, watch another on the platform likes at 20 games, patreon.com/ASEPresents, or more movie for 1 month. Goes link to support the daily grindiness of all them daily movies, so I can go here. And until next time, inside sauce, see my sock croutons and bacon bits. I'm gonna go find out if this is a dream or reality. Goodbye.